Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizean Affairs Show number 457. 457. Tonight is Monday, and our chairman is not available as yet, but I'm going to go ahead and launch the program in the interest of timeliness. Um, we will follow the normal process of our programming. That is that I will say a short prayer, after which I'll do a short reading, and then we go into the formal portion of our presentation for tonight. I'll just bow my head. Divine loving Father, I thank you for this privilege to come before thy presence and express my sense of gratitude to you for your mercies unto us, your undeserving servants. We pray that thou mayest bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, wherever they are, as if they were each named and numbered. Please continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership. Please bless this country, its people and leadership as well. And please continue to have mercy upon the rest of humanity, especially those people who are in earthquake areas, tornadoes, hurricane, uh, earthquakes, and all manner of pestilence on the face of this earth. We pray that thou mayest continue to be merciful unto them. And whatever we have to say tonight, and Father, may it accrue to um, to the well-being of our country of Belize and to thy service. For we ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. I'll do my short reading tonight from let me see the book of Job. Just a second. I'll read from the book of Job tonight. I'll read start at chapter 23, and it reads as follows. Then Job answered and said, even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my uh, groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his seat. I will order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments. So said Job. Uh, um, I'll take the liberty in the absence of a Monday night chairman and start the discussion on a particular topic which I had written about before and spoken about before as well. If and when the chairman is available, I'll just yield, turn over the show, and we'll just deal with whatever subject matter he is inclined to present for tonight. But in the interim, I'll just go ahead and, like I said, present this alternative uh, input as part of our programming for the night. On August 6th of 2022, I posted a commentary by the title of The Belize Governor General's Purview, and had visited that matter previous to that point in time, as well as subsequent to that point in time. I can recall recently having revisited it as well. And that is because it is necessary for people in Belize who do not read and understand and know their constitution to at least get to hear some of what it contains to enlighten them a little bit more, rather than for them to be bamboozled by our politicians into believing that the Governor General is just a figurehead or a rubber stamp. I started the article by saying the following commentary was made by Leonard Brackett to Mr. Hillman Hale in response to his comment on my Facebook post about Belize PM. The Belize Governor General is in a pickle of a situation, I stipulated, as she was recommended by Honorable PM Mr. Johnny Roseno, and they expect for her to be in their gratitude, to be pliable and facilitating or acquiescing to their agendas. That is that their political agendas. Still don't see anyone in the background yet, so I'll proceed, continue. However, the Governor General is accountable to and serves at the pleasure of the Belize head of state, which is Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, or in her demise, King Charles of the UK and Commonwealth of Great Britain. And the Governor General could not be found in contravention of the Belize head of state's interests. That is, she serves at the pleasure of the head of state as well as in the interest of the head of state. Nevertheless, the Belize politicians have taken the opportunity to pretend that she, the Governor General, serves at their pleasure because they nominated her to be assented as Governor General. And according to them, whatever they ask her to do, she should be obliged to do, which is not necessarily the way the process, procedures, protocols, or the law or constitution operates. The Governor General's office budget, I went on to say, is the purview of Belize government. That is, she does not currently have an adequate law constitutionalist uh, in house as a part of her team to advise her or to help her forestall or derogate or reject proposed unconstitutional bills or acts, or to deny assent thereof. Why? Because they do not afford her uh, the privilege to have her own constitutional advisors as part of her team in house to her modus operandi, or how she operates the governor's uh, office. Instead, what they do is they make the attorney general available to her as her legal advisor or constitutional counsel. So then that whenever cabinet has any request of the governor general for her to sign on to anything, when the attorney general, who is the legal uh, person on behalf of the government and cabinet, and who is a member of cabinet, by the way, takes whatever cabinet decides that they want to have assented to the governor general. And the advice of the attorney general then is weighted with the interests of the cabinet instead of being an independent arbiter and or an independent legal advisor to the Governor General, who the Governor General has control over, in the sense that that individual then would be a member of her team in house, so that when the cabinet would send anything over to her for signing, she would then be able to take her in house legal advisor and constitutionalist to review whatever is sent to her before she signs it. That's not the case. I went on to say, as Belize is being taken into major constitutional altering crisis mode, as we now know, even the constitution of Belize, the present government is attempting to eviscerate or alter enough to the point of eviscerating the present constitution. There's only one constitution at a time, and the present government refuses to abide by the constitution that we now have in place, as if it wasn't there and or as if it doesn't have any leverage or impact on them. They behave in such onerous and disdainful ways to the point where even when the court tells them that they are wrong and that they need to correct their wrongs, they snub the court and they move on and pretend like, well, how is the court going to come and force them to do what they don't want to do? Because the court is not going to come off its benches and go and administer or manage the affairs of the country in place of the cabinet, in place of the government. So these guys act as scofflaws, basically, for all intents and purposes, refuse to abide by the laws, refuse to abide by the rules and regulations of the country, and just manage the country according to their personal agendas and dismissing the written laws that are on the book and allowing themselves to run the country with impunity and self-inoculated immunity, and pretend that, nobody's going to force them to do what they need to do according to their own sworn oath when they went to ask the Governor General to assent to them becoming the uh, cabinet for the country's management. They went ahead, swore allegiance to the Constitution of Belize and its people, swore fidelity to the very same Constitution, and at the same time, they got appointed as the cabinet and in charge of all governance affairs on our behalf, and turn around and manage the government affairs on their own behalf and disregard the interests of the public in such onerous ways, as to the point now where the Prime Minister have 3 members of cabinet that are on leave. First, we had Mr. Mai on leave. Then we have Mr. Mor- Mor- Mira on leave. And then now we also have Mr. Marin on leave. To the point where the Prime Minister is now assuming additional tasks and office, because even though the PUP have 26 members in the House, it seems like the Prime Minister cannot find nobody trustworthy enough for them to assume this ministry or the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Home Affairs. And it is unfortunate that you still have people aiding and abetting these type of criminal conduct or behaviors and are getting out there in the public on the airwaves and pretend like, well, everything is all right. Just forget about what happened and is happening, and just let's move on. You know, they call it stay on track. That is that they're talking about some train track that they're hoping that the people are on board the train and they want to keep them on that train track, in that train, on that train track, and keep them, moving forward. Don't pay attention to what's going on wrong. Don't look at what's wrong. Don't complain about what's wrong. Just keep moving on. Stay on track. Um, After I wrote this article, one of my good friend, well, I would say extremely good friend, Mr. Hillman Halak, who has since passed away. Remember now, I said that this article was published uh, August 6th of 2022. At that time, Mr. Hillman Halak was still with us, but have since passed away. But at that time, he replied to my commentary, and he said, "With that being said, it seems like we are between the devil and the deep blue sea." And I retorted to him, or to his comment, by saying, Mr. Hillman Halak, very much so, sir, and our Belizean people are asleep with eyes wide open, being indifferent and cavalier to our impending plight. Another very good friend of ours who has since passed away as well, but was still with us back then when the article was first uh, um, published, the Venerable Mr. Glenn Tillett himself, another great friend of mine, he said to me in a retort, in a text, that he retorted in a text and said to me, "Amazing, Leonard Brackett, that you can read minds and not just infer." Of course, he was chiding me because we had a thing going on between us where every once in a while, when we write these articles, we were doing so with the idea of challenging each other and trying to bring out the best of each other, or trying to force each other to, rise to the occasion of the particular point of debate. So I retorted to my good friend, Mr. Glenn Tillett, who was, like I said, has since passed away. I retorted back to him by saying, "Mr. Glenn Tillett, are you unaware of the facts behind my above comments, even as publicly available information?" And then I opened bracket and said, "Was Honorable PM Mr. John Briceño correct by intimating that Belize lacks talent?" Close bracket. I did a triple dot there because I wanted to comment further, but um, I chose not to belabor the point. And my good friend, again, Mr. Glenn Tillett, like I told, we used to chide each other. He replied back to me by saying, "Leonard Brackett, how does that in any way provide any basis for your assertion that the process of constitutional reform is seditious?" Because I had also written another article claiming that the Prime Minister was attempting to commit sedition and trying to use cabinet and the Governor General to help him achieve that objective. So that is what my good friend Mr. Glenn Tillett was alluding to. I'll just reread what he said, no, within the context of what I stipulated. He said, Leonard Brackett, how does that in any way provide any basis for your assertion that the process of constitutional reform is seditious? And again, um, an opinion by anyone of Belizean uh, possession of or lack thereof of talent is simply an opinion and nothing else. So you'll see how he threw in the part about the seditious comment that I had made in another article as to say, well, I got you now. What you said before, you're still not backing up, you're still not speaking clearly too, according to what you were stipulating. Of course, all of what had been said about the seditious activities was a complete different commentary, very lengthy, and he still was chatting me about it. So I went on to reply to my good friend Mr. Plentillet at the time, still being alive and now having been deceased. I said to him that back then, Sir, please be gracious enough to reread my commentary slash comments with your glasses on. Now I was trying to chat him, mess around with him back. Like we used to do that to each other very, very often. Not out of any lack of respect, but just just chatting each other. So I said, uh, "Sir, please be gracious enough to reread my commentary slash comments with your glasses on. You're believed to have a fabulous mind slash comprehension, sir. God bless always." And we did pursue the conversation verbally further on, as well as on other occasions. But I don't have that particular article here with me right now that he was referring to. I wish I would have had it available. I have dealt with that particular article a few times before. Let me see if I can. I'll take a stab at trying to locate that article quickly, just so I can give the public the benefit of a little bit more clarity and context. Uh, okay. No, that's not it. Okay, let me try one more time. I'll try something else. No. Okay, let me try another location. No. Okay, so I could not retrieve it from that particular location. So I'll ask your forbearance again. Let me take another step here, trying to retrieve that same information somewhere else. Oops. Um, no, it's not that either. So okay, so I I'm unable to retrieve it to retrieve that particular article. So I'm gonna try and interject. I see our chairman is in the background. I know he's able to come in at his own pleasure. So I think maybe he might be loading up something that he wants to present to us. So I don't know if I. Okay, I'll just take another 5 minutes and see if I can present this other article here quickly. And that may give him another opportunity to not have to speed up. Let me see how much time we have used up already of his. Okay, so if I take 5 minutes, he will still have his other 60 minutes, hopefully, to grace the public with whatever he has to offer tonight, and then I'll just yield to him. Um, I had another article that I was looking for that I couldn't find, and maybe it was for the better because that article was, like I said earlier, it was long, and it was related to the same commentary that my good friend Mr. Glenn Tillit had made, and I was hoping to grace the public with it, but maybe at some future occasion. So therefore, quickly then, I'll just go forward with this, and I'll say on September 26th of 2021, 1 year and a month earlier, I had written another different essay or commentary, which went on as follows. The following commentary was made by Leonard Brackett as foresight or preview of coming attractions to Belize governance powers exercise. And I titled that one The Constitution of Belize Bastardization Challenging Pandora's Box. I'll just try and read this through as quick as possible, knowing that the chairman is in the background, um, so I can get out as much of the material. I went on to say, Belize at 48 years of independence at that time, 2021, getting rid of anything British, parliamentary vestiges, and British head of state, ascension of executive or exercise of police powers. Prime Minister Mr. John Briseno with Dream, Constitution of Belize revamping, and to do violence to or ultra-virus existing Constitution of Belize, being a seditious agenda, abrogation of sworn oath to uphold the Constitution of Belize. I went on to say further, I see the chairman still working in the background. I went on to clarify further by saying Prime Minister of Belize, Honorable Mr. John Briseno, appears to be getting power drunk, announcing a Constitutional Reform Commission, CRC, to reform the Constitution of Belize into a more pliable document so as to aggregate the government of Belize some additional powers vested in the people of Belize and the Constitution of Belize and constitutionally protected. In effect, the CRC, which is the Constitutional Reform Commission, was subsequently changed from that name to a different name, which then became the PCC, the People's Constitution Committee, uh, Commission. And the intent of that same organization, under its previous name or the latter name, was for them to, as I previously stated earlier, revamp the Constitution of Belize into a more playable document and or to eviscerate the Constitution in lieu of a new Constitution, which would serve their purpose a bit better according to them than the current Constitution. But how they was going to get from the current Constitution to the new Constitution without the necessary powers agreed to, I see the chairman is available, so um, I'll just cease and desist my presentation, knowing that I've already used up quite a bit of his time, and I'd just like to yield to you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Gregory Brackett, Chairman for tonight. I yield back, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. I want to say good night
You're
to
welcome.
the people at home and abroad. I want to thank you for tuning in to this our 457th edition of Belizean Affair. People at home and abroad, I want to show you how executive power and political overreach plays a major role in Belize. And I also want to prove to you how this has been used time and time over to set aside events that happen within government. I want to thank I want to thank you also for sitting virtually with me, my good cousin.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
With that said, sir, I want to go to the first tip to hear what the Prime Minister has to say.
Of course, we're going to deal with it. And as I said to Cabinet from last week and this week I repeated, um, we don't only have to do the things right, we also have to appear to do the things right. I mean, for instance, what I've been told when it comes to the mirrors, it, if it gives the impression as if they were only getting money and they were not delivering goods, but the goods were delivered. But it really leads into question when you're just giving it to one person. So that's the point I was making, that you can't only do things right, you also have to appear to be.
People at home and abroad, you heard what the Prime Minister said as the head of the Finance Department
Mm-hmm.
to the Cabinet. They don't have to only do things right, they have to appear like they're doing things right. And I want to say, tonight on Belizean Affairs, I am going to point out exactly how this came up and why it came up. Mr. Brackett, based on what the Prime Minister said, I want to hear your first comment, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Based on what the Prime Minister was saying, it is my impression that he was trying to be a bit too slick for his own good. That is that at the time he was making that statement, it appears that he was unaware that other people out here was aware that what he was speaking to, he could have been speaking to those same issues many years ago, because he did not just become aware of what's happening in the case of the Mira and or many others that were referred to him way back many years ago, that he just glazed his eyes over and moved on and pretended like what was happening back then was no big deal. It is just that because what has happened now is the evidence has been made available to the public, and the public are looking and seeing with their own eyes and hearing these discussions with their own ears and rationalizing on their own as to what is it that's really going on. And he is pretending to be addressing what's going on now, when in fact he should have been addressing these matters long before now, from when it was being brought to his attention. And he is saying that he wants the members of cabinet to understand what the Constitution tells them that they're supposed to understand. That is that they are not supposed to bring in to disrepute their offices. The Constitution tells them that in black and white. Which one of them had not read that, or would not have known that, or should not have known that? So he was not giving them news, nor is he giving all of us news. I presume maybe he's giving some people news who did not realize that that's what the Constitution demanded of them, to not bring their office into disrepute. And when they went and assigned their oaths of allegiance and office, it was required of them to specifically state that they will not be coming into office to enrich themselves, as the Constitution demands that they don't do, and or to misuse their office for self-enrichment or the enrichment of their family and friends and with people who give them kickback. The Prime Minister knew exactly what he was saying. But now he's trying to ingratiate himself with the public after the public has been made aware of all these things that's been happening. He's trying to dump everything under the bus and pretend that he's trying to lean a clean ship. That is not true. He's bamboozling us. He's double talking to us, and especially to those of us who would not know. But he can't bamboozle those of us who have been paying attention to these things and have been telling him for years now, clean up his act. He has a large enough majority that he don't have to tolerate some of these other ministers playing hanky panky and committing crimes under the color of law. Because as a minister, as a member of cabinet, as a elected parliamentarian, they are responsible for creating laws and also to see that those laws are abided by all of the people in the country, including themselves. Nobody is above the law. So they can claim that, or in the particular instance of the prime minister, he can claim that he didn't know that these things were happening long before because he's the minister of finance. All these things have to go through his finance department. If he was not aware, it's because he wasn't doing his job. And if he was hoping that because nobody didn't tell him, other than the people who were trying to get him to do right, if none of his staff didn't point out what was wrong and what was going on, and his staff was just carrying on and going ahead and facilitating these other people, he's still culpable. He leads that department, the Ministry of Finance. And the Ministry of Finance have all the records, and he should have allowed the Auditor General the privilege and the flexibility to be able to do continuous auditing. All those things would have been brought to his attention through the Auditor General's office, because the Auditor General, having done its work or doing its work, would have been able to find out and see these things, these inconsistencies, these errors, omissions, oversights, if that's what they want to call them. But from my vantage point, they're not errors, omissions, or oversight. They're deliberate malfeasance. Are you back, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
But what is happening here is damage control, and I want to show you, the people at home and abroad, how the Prime Minister intends to do damage control. In our last week Monday night show or Wednesday night show, we played a tape with Minister Andre Perez, and I want to go back to that tape for clarity.
I can speak to you from a business standpoint, right? I'm a businessman. I can speak to you that when it comes to managing a company or a corporation, you have to have a place whereby if your company is growing, let me tell you something, the government, the national budget is growing, right? We have more payments to make. The Coast Guard has grown, the BDF has grown, my ministry is growing as well. So for me as a businessman, if I'm going to be engaging in my CEO, can I make any decisions on the threshold of $10,000? And everything has to go through us, and the payments are getting bigger, the increase of cost on just about everything. Then it's time for us to look at maybe the increase of the threshold from $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000, because it might very well turn out that these things, payments need to be made. I mean, you full of gas tank right now. No. You asked me for a comment. You asked me for a comment. You have a comment. I'm saying from a business standpoint, if there needs to be an increase, I'm not saying going to 50,000, but again, the CEOs to make the decisions. As it relates to abuse, that is speculation. But I'm saying as a business person, 10,000 is no. You full on gas tank now. You used to full $100 for a gas tank. You full on gas tank for $300 now. So if you authorize somebody with a vehicle that you couldn't put $100, you are forcing that person to put quarter tank or half tank. So as it relates to abuse, and so let's not get into comments for that or speculations.
People at home and abroad, I want to show you this is bona fide proof that whenever a party is caught up in these kind of information, they sit down together
in
and
cabinet.
they have discussion on what they will present to the people.
Mm-hmm.
Here we had Mr. Perez outrightly saying that he would run the taxpayers' money as though he was running a private business. And if I may implement that, speaking as though he would run the taxpayers' money as how he run his personal business. This is not something that just came to mind, and I will show you why. This was the starting point to trigger what I call an inside collaboration within the People's United Party. Mr. Brackett, I go to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that Mr. Perez is hiding behind the idea that he is a businessman and therefore whatever he says has merits. Let me show how in let me state for a matter of fact and clarity how disingenuous the gentleman was in his statement when he said that $10,000 is too little for his CEO or him to be involved with, to be supervising every little payment or purchase that the department would make. That is not the point of contention. It is not how much they spend or don't spend. Because each government department is spending millions and millions of dollars. So why is he going to try and bamboozle the public into believing that, well, we are talking about a threshold of $10,000 as a limit and the only amount of money that the department can spend or should be able to spend at any one given time? That's not the point. We're saying he needs to tell the people the truth, which is they can bill the government for any amount of the services that the government requisition. Okay? But if the amount is above a certain threshold, such as 10,000, then there are other departments that need to come in or other authorities that need to come in and verify those contracts. It triggers what you call accountability requirements. They don't want no accountability. They don't want no one to look over their shoulder and to see and know what is it that they're doing and the hanky-panky that they're playing. Because even if the stuff is raised to $20,000 as a minimum, that only means that they will be able to play hanky-panky with double the amount of money as a threshold. Because they can do the same thing then at 20,000, they can come under 20,000 by classifying the cost of any purchase that they're doing to be 19,000 or less, or 20,000 or less. So the threshold is not the issue. And they're authorized to go above that threshold. Only that when they go above those thresholds, they trigger accountability requirements, which means that other people, like for example, the contractor general, has to look at the contract that they're procuring those items for. They're procuring items for $200,000, $300,000 by breaking up the payments or the for less than 10,000 payment until they get to the 300, 400,000 or whatever amount of thousand that the contract is for. That's not what is required. What they're doing then is, for all intents and purposes, money laundering. It's an offense to break up the contracts just in order to not do the proper reporting. And he knows that. So when he's coming and telling the public nonsense that 10,000 is too low, ask for what you want. 10,000 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, a million, and more, but let it go through the proper payment procedures and the proper contractual, the proper auditing and the auditor general, so that people can know. Because, okay, it's not like they don't know that these things were happening, okay? It's just that these things have become exposed now by the real documents that comes out of the government process, payment process, okay? But they have known about these things because what Jules is exposing is matters that started back in 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's ongoing for years. And for years, I've been telling them that there are a bunch of scofflaws and scoundrels and kleptocrats and all the other derogatory terms that we were using to classify or explain away what they were carrying on with. If anyone wants to see, they can go right back on over the last 450 odd programs that we have presented and see what is it that we were talking about. It's not a miracle. It's not something that just pop out of the sky as a miracle. We've been talking about these things from long before now. They have been exposed now. And now they want to pretend that, well, the way for that not to happen is for them to just double up the lower threshold. The lower threshold of 10,000 is not the issue. If you double it to 20,000, they want still to do the same connivance. It just means that they will do it more and get away with no oversight. That's what the issue is, oversight. And they're triggering this and the threshold payments to avoid the oversight. Are you back, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Good
Welcome, sir.
oversight. And I'm glad you mentioned the FIU, because when they were passing that law, if you recall, they did not want to go back in excess years. They only want to go to a certain year, which would have protected them themselves. But I want to say this. If we, the people at home and abroad, we the people, look at those contracts, anyone with a common thinking and mind should know the amount of money that we are speaking about that is paid out
Millions of dollars
in one day or on the same day. The amount of produce that those money is paying for, the BDF camp and the Coast Guard camp would not have the efficient place to hold those things. So you know it has to be something that is happening. But as I said,
Mr. Chairman, can I add one little statement that I forgot to say just now?
Go ahead, sir.
Part of the problem is that the mirrors and many other vendors have been supplying the government various departments with supplies, with materials, with food, with all different sort of stuff that the government procures according to the government's need. What became more onerous than anything else is that the mirrors scenario proved that they were grabbing onto all these contracts or all these procurement possibilities from other people who used to help procure. They were garnering it and clumping it down only for themselves and among themselves. And the many other people who used to participate in these things before, they were left out. They cornered the market, and they control the market with internal influence, political influence. They were not giving out these things as bona fide contracts that were being put out for tender, and that they were winning all the tenders fairly. They were cheating the system. And not only just cheating the system in grabbing up all the contracts for themselves. Some of these things, as we have found out, they were overpricing them to the tune of, in one case, $600,000. That's not a chump change. When we are talking about billing for up to 10,000 and beyond 10,000, for them to have some kind of accountability review, they've been chancing the country and the country's assets. That's why there is no assets left behind
But Mr. Brackett,
for other people to get services from the government.
any way you look at it, it will come to the same thing. Most business places, if they hire you, the first thing the question come to mind is anybody in your family working there.
Mm-hmm.
Where most business places would not hire you and your fiance to work in the same department. So that within itself should tell you, when you see a whole family involved, you know it is nepotism.
You call it racketeering, sir.
You know,
The legal terminology is
but
racketeering, and there are
to
consequences.
prove the point that I'm getting at, we heard what Mr. Pierce said. This weekend, the PUP had their national council meeting in Stan Creek. And I want you to hear what this young lady said, which to me is not a coincidence.
My name is Isabella Zabane from the constituency of Stan Creek West, and I wanted to write this down so I could be absolutely clear.
Big round of applause for Miss Belize.
Thank you. I would like to urge the consideration of a lift of the threshold from 10,000 to a higher number. What matters is value for money. And 10,000 is simply too low for ministries to be allowed to spend. It's micromanaging everybody from the top down to the bottom. We need strong oversight, but 10,000 is too low in this economy. Maybe 30 years ago it was appropriate, but it burdens the office of financial secretaries to be micromanaging all of the ministries. Great leaders are remembered for making hard decisions. So I urge this administration to consider making a hard decision. We are not a party of thieves. We are a party of love. And we are not afraid of any other party or the media propaganda that they will push. Thank you.
I must commend Bella for being very thoughtful and to be brave to make such a recommendation considering what we're going through. But what we're doing at this time, we've been working with the IDB for over a year, coming up with new legislation where we want to set up what we call the Central Procurement Unit. And under the Central Procurement Unit there's going to be a portal where all of government contracts and business would have to go through that portal so everybody can see what services the government is going to be needed. And then once the contracts have been approved, it's going to be on that portal so everybody can see what who has been approved these contracts. And you are right. When you're looking at $10,000 in a budget of about $1.8 billion, it's really not a lot in the scheme of things. But there has to be proper reporting. And that is what the problem that we've been facing. So one of the things they're looking at is probably increasing that $10,000 to a higher number. But there's going to be a lot of more reporting, a lot of more oversight, and a lot of more transparency so that people can see what is happening and to ensure that we continue to manage the people's money the way we should. We signed.
Now, people at home and abroad,
Bamboozler extraordinaire.
Mr. Pierce came with the idea first. Now everybody's on the bandwagon. But you heard the young lady say What matters is value for money. No, she is speaking out of context because they are not getting value for money when you are paying higher than the item cost. How can that be value for money? So that is totally out of context. But here we have them trying to do damage control. So now they want to make implementation to find different ways to come up with new ideas to do this procurement when the horses are already out of the gate. Now they want to pull the rein and stop it, but they want to stop it using damage control. And I will show you, the people at home and abroad, tonight how they intend to do damage control. Mr. Brackett, I go to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In the first instance, they're talking about coming up with another way to do what has been done so far, as if to say what has been done so far as a system in terms of procurement is not good enough. It's not the procurement system that is not good enough. It's they're evading the system. So regardless of what kind of system they come up with as regards to what the Prime Minister was recommending or saying, he's just talking, he's bamboozling the people, double talking, because at the end of the day, whoever have the inside track and know how to manipulate the system will cause the evasion of the system. The current system allows them to be able to enter the same procurement numbers or order number 2 and 3 and 4 times by just adding a little dot or a zero or something else to some of the procurement numbers. And we have found that out to be the case. So it's a matter of evading the system. And why would they be evading the system or want to evade the system? To carry on shenanigans. If the very people who are running the system are running it to facilitate malignancy or mischievousness, then that could happen with this system here now, as has been happening, or any other new system that, it's about the people involved. If you have scoundrels involved in running your affairs, scoundrels will do what scoundrels do. And that's the problem. What we need is people being honest, upfront, and as what the young lady said, they should increase it and maybe they should double it or whatever. Don't care how they increase it, that will not solve that particular problem. It will just facilitate them being able to steal on a bigger, a bit quicker and more. They don't have to depend on that $10,000 threshold. That is never a threshold that blocks them from being able to order materials or services through the government system for millions of dollars. Because that's how government operate. They order for stuff in small quantities, they order for stuff in large quantities, they order for stuff that are cheap, they order for stuff that are expensive. And under none of those circumstances should there be any preclusion from being able to get paid for what the government rightfully order. What we're talking about here in these instances is malfeasance, evading the system, not wanting to report. Are you back, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome,
But
sir.
as I said, this is about damage control and trying to get the people behind the People's United Party. I want to go to a tape and I want the people at home and abroad to listen to the Prime Minister and what he had to say about the leader of the opposition.
Tracy, we think that the people forget how she gave way Bolido to a member of the borough government. We have to remind her, who did she give the Bolido to? We have to tell her that she has no moral authority to talk about corruption because Tracy Panton has been one of the most corrupt ministers that the government have ever seen. So we're not afraid for the UDP because our party is united. Our party is strong. And the people of this country continue to support the People's United Party because they see the difference of a UDP government that does nada and a UDP government that works for the people every single day.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
I had under the color to try answer that gentleman narrative, no? Is he implying that Tracy Panton was a former prime minister or a prime minister or maybe even a minister, a substantive minister per se? Tracy Panton had no power or authority to give or to fulfill what he's telling those poor people out there who are all, I would say most of them, are unaware of what the hell he's talking about in its true context. And because he is saying so, they're going to run with that and pretend that, okay, well, maybe Tracy is indeed, as he's describing, the most corrupt person in Belizean politics. That's himself he's talking about. Because there has never been a prime minister in Belize that has been as corrupt as he has been and his administration has been. And that's for the record, because we all know that. The evidence is there to prove that as a fact, not just as a statement or a gratuitous statement. But the bottom line is that he is saying, talking about Tracy, which first of all, what he's alleging is libelous, right? What he's alleging is also, trying to play character assassination against the woman. The woman has just become the leader of the party. She had no powers or authority to bring about what he's alleging, which was never true. The Bolido has been taken back by them, and as of today, we don't know where any of the money has been spent, other than the fact that his cronies have been running it and getting paid handsomely. Okay? That he's not telling the public. But as usual, when you have mobsters running your system, that's what you get as an outcome. The action and behaviors of mobsterism. I yield back, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett.
You're welcome, sir.
I want to say this to you, the people at home and abroad. As I said before, this is damage control at its best. And this is a political narrative for you to hear, to try to reverse it through the reverse psychology, to let him get the people to favor him.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the first time. It will not be the last time that whenever this party gets into an issue, they are trying to do damage control. It is a proven fact. And what he is saying is out of context. And I will tell you why. In fact, I won't even tell you why at this moment. All I am going to do is show you another tape, and then I will tell you exactly what is his intention. Here is another tape.
And I got some news for Jan Zaldivar, because he was the one that is being so pious. The Auditor General is also going to be auditing all the way to 2015. And so we're going to find what John Saldiva was doing then. So if they want to talk about what's going on, then it is time for us to go and look at what happened under the UDP when they stole millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Is he talking about Mr. Musa, his former prime minister, that he had also tell Mr. Musa to bring back some of the money we didn't steal?
Before I go to you, I want to say this.
Crazy.
You heard the tape. You heard what he said about the leader of the opposition. You heard how far back the audit would go to 2015. The Prime Minister's intention is to use executive overreach and executive power, as he did in the Bodnar's case, to prevent justice. And I will tell you why. These businesses are about just 5 years old. They were not in that era. We are not talking about 2015 or what happened in the Farmer Party. We are talking about what is happening at present. So when he says the Auditor General is going back to 2015, he intends to use overreach to extend the period of auditing so they cannot come up with an answer to what is happening in the mirror situation. That is what they are trying to, they are not even trying. That is their intention to do. They will prolong it. And they will keep prolonging it because they will say the Auditor General has not finished the audit yet, as he has gone back to 2015. Therefore, using overreach, the Prime Minister intends to step in the path of justice again, as he had did in the Bodnar case. That is his intention. And I'm saying it tonight because you, the people at home and abroad and around the world, will see this is his intention. And that is my belief. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
Thank you very much, sir. To start with, the Prime Minister have no control over and or should not be giving any orders to the Auditor General, because that office is an independent office that does an independent auditing on behalf of the country, and the audited material should be placed in the House for the House review. It's not something that will be or should be given to the Prime Minister for his personal perusal and review and decision as to what to do with it next. I hope most Belizeans heard what I said just now and at least understand that based on what I just said, the Prime Minister is then talking out of context, and I would say even above his pay grade, because it is not his responsibility to go and dictate to the Auditor General when or how or what to do and not to do. The Auditor General's position is the same as that of the it falls into the same category of individuals or government.
It falls in the category of the
ombudsman,
FIU, Mr. Brackett.
The ombudsman. The FIU,
the Auditor General and the FIU should work together because they do the same thing.
Yes,
and I'm surprised the FIU is not involved in this.
Because they know that there's criminality to be found, and they don't want any of them to end up going to jail, which is for the same reason why they have not put in motion the successful implementation of the UNCAP rules, because some of them will go to jail and they will lose assets that they have stolen from the government coffers. they don't want to be put in a situation where there's any oversight on them or any authority above them in terms of bringing them to account. But like I said, the Prime Minister should not be trying to impress on the public the idea that somehow or another he can command the Auditor General to go back and audit the previous administration. When in fact, the crimes that we're talking about right now and that needs to be audited and finished successfully is the current crimes. We want them to stop stealing our assets and our resources. What was stolen before is stolen and gone. You could also go back and deal with that. But you can't exculpate the current criminals them and others that are committing the present crimes and say, well, because the previous administration may have committed some crimes, that justify not dealing with the current crimes. But in the first place, had he been serious about that, he would have undertaken that effort from when they got into office, not wait until his administration is being caught red-handedly with their hands in the public till, to the tune of multiple millions of dollars, for him to now trying to say, well, he should be exculpated, or his administration should be exculpated, and we shouldn't pay attention to what they are currently doing because other people have done it before. Hogwash. They all deserve to go to jail. They send small people who go and steal a pack of bread from the store, they send them to jail. Or people who go and steal a pot of meat or a plantain or a banana or whatever, they send them to jail. What happened? The people that steal big don't go to jail, only the people that steal small? Fuck them all up and send them to jail, as far as I'm concerned. Are you back, Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Now I want to show you again how they are trying to politically change the narrative in their favor, as usual. If we recall the BTL saga, when they tried to buy over SpeedNet, who came on to the people? Here we go again. Let's go to the tape. Because this is nothing new. It's the same thing over and over.
We can't take things for granted. Because it's easy to get carried away, When PUP lose, and nobody no beat we, that we beat ourselves. That we get carried away. That we start kicking ourselves. That we start make mistakes. That we start get carried away and start quarreling to one another and want to fight it to one another and tear each other apart. We get caught up. We get carried away. And I understand you want to get carried away because I used to be a young man too. Miss Married, I used to be a young man. But we don't know a young party. We are the grandest, greatest, oldest party. We shouldn't be making youthful mistakes. We have to stay focused. They say keep the main thing, and the main thing that the people, the main thing that the work. Vast majority of the candidates need the party to be strong for win. So we're sure that we are win. Can't get carried away and kick ourselves. We have to help one another. We have to take care of one another. We have to make sure that the party is strong. Because you know what happen, right? 8, 9, 10 and we are win. And then on the other side, you got everybody else. That's not a good feeling. I know you don't want to head there. Because maybe your ego like die there. You think that only a few will win. You're one of the few who win. But that's not a good feeling. I could guarantee you that. Because I've been there, done that. 2008, how much I will win, Prime Minister? 6 I will win. 6 I will win. And all our people lose everything. All our people lose their job. They take one land where we give them. They can't get a house. They can't send their picnic to school. They can't get health care because they're a PUP. So we have a responsibility to make sure that we win. So that PUPs could be alright. But this is the point. Make we not do nothing to make we party weak. And make we do everything to make we party strong. Make we put we self last and put we country first.
So there you go, people at home and abroad. Again, good political speech using the reverse psychology to correct the wrong that has already happened by trying to contain it using damage control. Mr. Brackett, I go to you.
Well said, Mr. Chairman. The man is song like one of the bad picnic. We don't commit the crime, and at time for them get a lashing. So then they plead and they say, well, daddy or mommy, don't lash me because I do pick me. Cynical, anyway. And these guys know what they're doing and what they're up to now. They want to continue reigning, and they know in order to continue reigning, they need not to commit crimes and do things against the people, right? They need to show some love to the people. But they will only show the love to the people after they commit their crimes, and they want the people to exculpate them or feel sorry for them. So they play with the people's emotion at that point. They already commit the crimes, they already fill up their bank account, okay? But they self-soak you and talk nice to you and come back, forget you if you go for another wrong. At the same treatment. Bunch of hyenas. But anyhow, it is my belief that unless we have a change of government in the country, we can't expect these hyenas to or leopards to change their spots or their behavior. As a matter of fact, they're recruiting new young ones. Let's take an example. As the newest elected person in the Pigstock in the College Division, the man has just been elected, not even a couple of good years yet, and the man is already flashing all kind of riches and he got massive mansions being built. The man have ships, and the man have vehicles. The man the man don't have no shame. Okay, so long as they win, they don't care to go about flaunting the assets that they steal from the system, because nobody will hold them accountable. And that's very onerous. At the least, they should wait and stop pushing the successes into people's face and boasting about it and daring people to do anything about it. That's to tell you how hard up they are. But not only just Mr. Mira or Mr. Perez or Mr. Mai or Mr. Marine, there are many others who have been doing hanky-panky and have been allowed to get away. Because if someone truly goes into the government smart stream system and do a forensic auditing, they will find out that there are so many crimes being committed there, that it's disgraceful. And these guys are going to come up here, and in the case of the Prime Minister, in public, and make the kind of stipulation he was making on that tape that you just played earlier. Blaming somebody else and telling his minions to look at what the other person is doing. Don't look at what they are currently doing, because according to him, what they are currently doing is not worse than what somebody else had done before. What somebody else had done before is worse than what they are currently doing. So just excuse what they are doing now and focus on the other people. The other people are not in office. There's a reason why they were voted out of office. And the privilege was given to these new knuckleheads. But they don't think like that, they don't talk like that. They're always trying to double talk to people and bamboozle people. And a lot of people fall for it. And the problem is that it's the public purse that pays the price. And it is the public that gets squeezed for additional taxes when they can't come up with the money to pay for the wage bill and all the government services. When they are criminal off all the riches off the top of the system. Are you back, Mr. Chairman? But Belizeans will learn the hard way. Are you back, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. But here we see tonight, based on what the young lady is saying, is exactly what we saw when some of these ministers were asked about the videotape with the kidnapping of Mr. Budna. Nobody seems to see the tape or don't want to have any discussion about the tape. No, according to this young lady, people should not pay any mind to the media. Don't pay no mind to the media because what the media is telling you is propaganda. So in other words, what you are seeing on the smart stream from the media don't exist. It's propaganda. It's identical to what happened to the tape with Mr. Budna's kidnapping. It never happened, so pay no response to it.
So they are trying to use her credibility as Miss Belize, a former Miss Belize, to say, well, when she speaks, people should listen. And what she's saying should be, accepted as being credible. When in fact, what she's saying has no merits in terms of the context of really what's happening. She's just trying to, soak the people, on their behalf.
What she's saying or what she had said, she had just lost her credibility because any student who is intelligent will know what is happening here. I want to go to a tape so you, the people at home and abroad, can hear what this minister had to say.
You know, the optics will always be the optics in politics. Nonetheless, I don't think the optics is bad from what we seeing on the ground, and especially with the people I represent. People want to see the work gets done. People have been seeing that under the leadership of Prime Minister Briceño, the amount of work that we have done is unprecedented, and the communities, especially those that were neglected for many years, they're finally getting to see the basic needs, simple as waters, the water system being connected to them, electricity being carried on to them. But the optics, the optics, we always have to manage the optics, and of course it will have an impact, but in my view, we just have to stay focused and continue to work.
People at home and abroad, you heard what Minister Martinez had to say. The optics on the ground is not bad. In his mind, it will go away because what people is looking for is the work that is being carried out by the party. I believe that when a minister or any minister speak the way Mr. Martinez did, the optics is not bad. It's like the CEO of the police department, Mr. Mira, does not listen to the noise in the market. In other words, what the people of this country is saying has no effect on what is happening. This is the way these politicians do their job and the way these politicians think that what the people has to say when these things happen does not matter. As he said, the optics on the ground is minor. I go to you, Mr. Brackett.
I recall somebody else
Comment
using that same statement about
the closing.
doesn't matter. In the Senate, I recall one leader of government business in the Senate told one of the opposition senators that they don't matter. That is to say, the opposition people don't matter. And that statement was made in that context, but it seems to me it's a mindset of those individuals in the government that others outside of the government officials don't matter. Otherwise, they would not be behaving so honorously, so dastardly, so criminally. They relate to the public with a level of criminal contempt, not just contempt, criminal contempt, for which I keep saying some of them ought to be in jail. And because nobody prosecute them or they don't prosecute themselves, they give themselves a pass, and therefore they keep behaving the same way because there are no checks and balances. I'll use that as my closing thoughts, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back. So.
I gave you a couple more minutes, sir.
Oh, okay. I would like for the Prime Minister to seriously allow proper investigation in his Ministry of Finance to find out how is it and why is it that he himself was unaware that these activities was going on and nobody reported to him when the buck stops with him. How come Nerea Garcia, Mr. What's the gentleman name from Toledo East? Martinez? I forgot his first name. Anyway.
Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, Mr. Martinez. How come Mr. Koye and all these other individuals who work in the Ministry of Finance, supporting the Prime Minister in all different financing efforts on behalf of the government, that each government department has to get its finances through the finance department out of the consolidated funds and the treasury of Belize. That all these hanky-panky can be going on, those that we have heard about so far, those that we haven't heard about so far, and those that are still going on and will continue to go on even after whatever effort is being made. Because at the end of the day, that is how these politicians, they hustle. They don't go to the bank with a mask like our average bank robber and rob our local Belize bank, or not Belize bank, I should say, or local Belize treasury. They do it by the stroke of a pen with no mask on their face, barefacedly. And yet, we are not supposed to pay attention to what they're doing or complain about what they're doing. And we should just continue complaining about what the previous administration before them did. When they promised that they were going to do better than the previous administration, which is why we kicked out the previous administration, only to have these guys come in and behave in a worse manner. I don't know where we're going to find decent, honorable-minded people to run our system of governance. But until we can come up with honest people to do that job for us. I see our country just getting worse and worse and worse because our economy is not developing any faster or any better. Our people at the level of 68% poverty are not being helped. They are being more impoverished. They are suffering more. And yet these scoundrels are getting richer and richer and grabbing most of the pie for themselves to the tune of millions and millions of dollars each. Each of these ministers, each of these individuals who get elected into our House of Representatives, if they become a minister, they become multi-millionaire. They become millionaire. And if they serve 2 terms, they become multi-millionaire. To the point that they don't need to depend on their salaries anymore. They don't need to depend on their gratuity. They don't need to depend on their retirement. Of course, after two terms, I think they get retirement guaranteed as well. In addition to all the different companies that they own or that they have doing business with the government and squeezing money out of the government, there needs to be a way that some of these people are brought to heel. And I'll leave it at that, Mr. Chairman. Thanks very much and good night. Thanks for
Thank
presenting
you,
such a
Mr.
wonderful
Brackett.
program, and may God bless Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad.
Thank you, Mr. Brackett. Before we go, I want to make one comment. I believe that we should change the rule or the law that when a government get into politics for 5 years, any private public company that is created, the contract should only sign for that 5 years of their term to prevent these long-term contracts. So when they leave government, people is still getting paid without doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
All contracts must be 5 years only, because some of these contracts are signed and many of these ministers don't even know if they will be re-elected. I
Okay.
think we need to do that. I want to say good night to you, the people at home and abroad, and I want to thank you for tuning into this, our 457th edition of Belizean Affairs, and hoping that you will join us again on Wednesday as we come to you with a new episode of Belizean Affair number 458. With that said, I want to say good night and everybody stay safe. God bless.